Quick recap, because some of you are here first, we flipped one variable. Kakarot was born on planet Vegeta with a resting power level of 10,000, double what the prince was born at, and a reading that climbed for as long as he cried and stopped, only because the scouter gave out first. Bardock and Guinea didn't send him to Earth as a gamble. They sent him there to disappear. He still fell into the ravine. He still hit his head. He's still the sweetest kid alive, and that's real, and it never stops being real. It just isn't where the problem lives. Grandpa Gohan died grabbing the tail on a full moon night, which was the correct move, and the pain of it opened something the old man had no way of knowing was there. 40 kilometers of mountain turned to glass. No body, no memory. The boy decided a monster came and told that story honestly for a decade, and he was right about everything except the address. And last part ended with a 15-year-old floating over the Pacific 400 kilometers from where he lost control, throwing up in the water, going to look for a friend who is already dead. This is the one where he dies. Here's the thing nobody in that story has processed yet. King Piccolo killed Shenron. He did it early, before any of the rest of it, got his wish, then destroyed the dragon so nobody could take it back off him. Which means every Dragon Ball on the planet is a lump of orange rock, and it is going to stay that way until Kami can rebuild what was broken. That takes 4 months. Krillin is dead for 4 months, and Goku is not there for any of it. Nobody knows where he goes. Bulma looks. Roshi doesn't, partly because Roshi is in a bed with burns down one side of his body and his hearing gone, and partly because Roshi has an idea about where a person goes after a night like that, and it isn't a place you can follow someone to. He comes back in the spring. He's thinner. He doesn't explain and nobody pushes. Krillin gets his life back the day the dragon works again, which is a good day, genuinely. Everybody's crying, Roshi's laughing. It's the first uncomplicated thing that has happened in a year. Goku goes to the lookout the next morning. And this is the scene I think the whole series turns on, so I want to do it properly. He asks Kami for training. Kami expects the usual. A kid who wants to be stronger, wants to be ready, wants to make sure it never happens again. And Goku is very specific, and he's very calm about it, which is somehow worse. He doesn't ask to get stronger. He asks whether there's a way to turn it off. That's the word he uses. Off. And Kami, who is the god of this planet, who has been here for centuries, who felt every second of that night from up here and chose not to descend, because he could not think of one thing he could contribute except more mass. Kami tells him the truth. No, there isn't. It's not a technique, and it's not a curse, and it's not something anybody put in him. It's just what he is, all the way down, and there is no version of this where it goes away. And then he watches a 15-year-old take that news standing up. So he offers the next best thing, which is quiet, 3 years of ki suppression. Not as a skill, as a habit, drilled past technique and down into personality until it isn't something he does anymore, it's something he is. Mr. Popo runs him through it every day for 3 years until Goku can walk into a room with a god in it and read below a house cat. And it works. It works beautifully. That's the tragedy of it. This is the single most successful piece of training anybody in Dragon Ball ever completes. But I want to plant 2 things here, because both of them are going to matter enormously. And one of them is going to matter about 8 minutes from now. The first, a lock that good works in both directions. Nobody notices. Why would they? He's not planning on ever opening it. The second, and this one runs for the entire series. Nothing that measures him is ever going to lie. A scouter reads output. When he's at 10,000, it says 10,000. When he's sitting under Kami's suppression, it says 5. And that's correct. It's an accurate reading of a man who is, in that moment, putting out 5. The thing that's actually wrong with him isn't output at all. It's a slope, a rate of change. And nobody has ever built an instrument with a field for that. Every reading in this story is true. They're all just measuring the wrong axis. Hold on to that one. It comes back in about 15 years and it ends the world. 23rd Budokai, Piccolo Jr. shows up with the 3 years of hate, a plan, and a very specific idea about how this is going to go. He spent his entire short life training for one man, and he has thought about this fight every single day. Goku ends it in one exchange. First move of the match. Doesn't gloat. Doesn't monologue. Doesn't look especially happy about it. Just puts him in the ground, because never fight for long, and then steps back and says sorry. And that does more damage than losing ever could have. Because Piccolo is left kneeling in a crater in front of a full stadium, having been treated not as an enemy, but as a hazard. Something to be diffused. Quickly, carefully, and then apologized to. He came to be somebody's nemesis, and he got handled like a gas leak. He's going to sit in that for 5 years. Then Chi-Chi, and I don't think this is a small thing at all. Chi-Chi is the only person on Earth who has ever looked at Son Goku and seen a husband instead of a weather event. Roshi sees a containment problem. Kami sees a theological one. Krillin loves him and is careful around him in a way he'd never admit out loud. Chi-Chi looks at him and sees a man who'd be good with kids. That's why he marries her. I'm fairly sure that's the entire reason. Gohan's born a year later, named for the old man, obviously. And then Goku does something he doesn't tell anybody about, including his wife. He takes the baby to Bulma and asks her to scan him. She thinks it's a joke at first. She runs it anyway, then runs it again because he asks her to. Perfectly ordinary infant. Bit big for his age. Nothing else. Goku cries with relief for about 10 minutes and won't say why. He doesn't ask her to scan himself. If he had, it would have said normal too. Goku's 25. He's a farmer. He has a wife and a 4-year-old and roughly as much peace as he's ever had in his life, and he's earned it. And it lasts until a pod comes down near East City and a man with hair to his knees starts asking people about somebody called Kakarot. You know the shape of this. Raditz finds Piccolo first, notes that the green man isn't the target, moves on, lands on Kame house, and the first thing he does is check his scouter, 5. He laughs. God, he laughs. 25 years? Half a galaxy. And the runt didn't even manage to kill a planet. He's standing here at 5, with a haircut and a child. And that reading is correct, remember. That's an accurate measurement of a man who has spent 8 years learning to sit at nothing. Everything Raditz says is true. That's what makes it land. He explains the mission, the head injury, the Saiyans, where the boy came from and what he was for, and none of it plays like a lie because none of it is one. Goku hears the whole thing and says no. Not defiantly. He doesn't make a speech. He says no, he's got rice coming in, and he'd like Raditz to leave. Raditz takes Gohan now. Piccolo arrives on that hill and offers the alliance, and this is where I need you to pay attention, because the sequence here is the entire point. Goku is still at 5. He doesn't drop it. He arrives at that wasteland with his son in a pod 50 meters away, and he does not unwind, because 8 years of Kami and Mr. Popo and one very bad night in West City all say the same thing. Don't open it, don't escalate, don't give it a reason. Talk him down. Find another way, so. They fight Raditz like men, and Raditz is 1500, and they are not, and it goes exactly how it goes. He takes Piccolo's arm off. I want to be honest about what that means, because the show lets you off the hook here, and I don't think we should be. Piccolo loses that arm because Goku is standing 8 meters away, choosing to stay suppressed. That's the price. Not a mistake, not bad luck, a decision Goku made for reasons that are completely sound, and Piccolo pays for it, and Piccolo should get to say so out loud. Then Raditz gets the boy out of the pod and holds him up by the collar as a shield, and that works too, and it works for the same reason. Everything Raditz achieves on that hill, he achieves because Goku is holding the door shut, and then Goku starts unwinding. And here's the thing I don't think anybody expects. It's slow. That's the payoff for everything Kami built. Suppression that deep isn't a switch you flip, it's a personality you've been wearing for 8 years, and coming out of it is not fast and it is not clean. It takes seconds. Real ones. Visible, labored, awful seconds where a man stands in a crater with his fists at his sides, making a sound like something under pressure, and the ground around his feet starts to lift. Raditz watches his scouter, 900, 4,000, 22,000, and he takes a step back, because 22,000 is Frieza's officer corps. 22,000 is people Raditz has spent his whole career being afraid of 40,000. And the lens cracks, because that's what those units do. Push a reading up faster than the hardware can track it, and it doesn't give you a bigger number. It gives you a cracked lens and a dead earpiece. And every Saiyan who's ever worn one knows that. So Raditz never finds out where it stopped, that's all he gets. Not a final figure. Just the knowledge that his equipment broke first, and the man kept going, which is a fundamentally different kind of fear than losing to somebody strong. Losing to somebody strong is a thing a Saiyan can do with his dignity intact. This isn't that. And 2 systems away, Vegeta and Nappa are listening to an open channel, and they get exactly the same thing he does. They've already heard about the spheres. Piccolo mentioned them earlier, when this was still a conversation about whether Raditz could be killed and whether it would stick. So Vegeta has wish-granting spheres that bring back the dead, and then a voice going thin, and then a number that climbs and truncates, and then 6 seconds of nothing. He doesn't get a ceiling. Nobody gives him a ceiling. That's precisely why he's going to come here for immortality instead of a fight. Raditz is holding a 4-year-old boy by the collar, and watching something come apart in front of him that his instruments have refused to measure, and he is not a brave man. So he does what cornered men do. He points his hand at the child in his own grip and fires, point blank, and Goku is somewhere in the 40s and still climbing, and he is not fast enough yet, not because of distance. Distance was never the problem. He's 12 meters away, and at 80,000, that's nothing. That's less than nothing. The problem is that he is 3 seconds into a 30-second job. He is still coming up out of 8 years, and the blast is already moving. And there is no amount of wanting that closes that gap, so he stops unwinding, and he starts tearing, and that's how it opens. I think this is the part people get wrong about this what if. Every time. He doesn't roar, he doesn't lose his mind with rage. He isn't avenging anything, and he doesn't choose it in any sense that means anything. Because there's no time in there to choose anything. He reaches for more speed and he goes straight through the ceiling. The dark hair, the red in the eyes, the lift. You barely see it, it's a frame. Then green, and nothing behind the eyes. He gets there. The boy is thrown 20 meters by the edge of it and lands in the dirt. And Gohan is unconscious before the green ever finishes arriving, which is the only mercy anybody gets on that hill all day. He wakes up an hour later in Piccolo's arm with a missing father and a missing 90 seconds. He never sees any of it. That matters more than it looks like it matters right now. Raditz lasts about 8 seconds. There's nothing to describe. There's a scorch pattern in the dirt roughly in the shape of a man and a strip of armor 40 meters down the slope, still smoking. And that's the last of Bardock's older son. And Piccolo is on his knees with one arm, looking up at something he cannot measure. And he's realizing the fight is over. And it isn't stopping. Nothing's pushing back now. That's the whole thing. That's the rule. And this is the moment the series builds its entire spine out of. The climb needs something to climb against. And there is exactly one object left, standing on that hill, dense enough to qualify. It turns inward and it starts eating him. He feels it start. That's the horror of it. He's in there, somewhere underneath. And he can feel the thing that's supposed to be his own strength turn around and go looking for something to fight and settle on him. And he works out in whatever's left of him that still works things out, that he has maybe 15 seconds, and that there is exactly one variable he still controls. Not weather, not how much where. So he goes up straight up out of the atmosphere as far as one man can get in 15 seconds, and he lets it out somewhere. There's nothing to hurt. Piccolo watches him leave and doesn't understand what he's watching until the sky lights up. Nothing comes back down, no body. Not a burned one, not a broken one, nothing to bury, nothing to find, nothing that says a person was ever up there. Chi-Chi gets an empty sky and a story about a Saiyan. Gohan gets an empty sky and a story about a Saiyan, which is exactly, precisely, to the letter, what Goku got at 4.5 years old standing in a valley made of glass. And I don't think he'd have appreciated the symmetry. And Piccolo walks off that hill with a 4-year-old think about what he's carrying. He came to kill this man. He lost an arm doing nothing. His beam missed, his plan failed, and the person he came for died without any assistance from him whatsoever. He contributed nothing to that fight, except a limb, and he is the only living witness. He is the only being in the universe who knows what actually killed Son Goku, and Gohan is going to spend the next 5 years believing a Saiyan did it, and Piccolo is going to stand there and let him. I'm not going to tell you why yet. He's got reasons, and they're better than they sound. But that silence sits between those two for 5 years, and when it finally breaks, it's going to break in the worst possible place. And roughly a decade after that, it turns out to be the only thing standing between this planet and something built out of the blood he left in that dirt. That's part 2. Goku's dead, killed by his own power, which is the second time that power has killed somebody he was trying to protect, and the first time anybody's around to notice. Piccolo's raising a child. Vegeta and Nappa are on their way, and Vegeta isn't coming for revenge. Vegeta doesn't care about Raditz, and never did. He's coming for the spheres because he heard a number climb and cut out, and he has decided he needs to be immortal before he stands anywhere near whatever made it. And Goku is on Snake Way, which is the interesting bit actually, because Canon Goku goes to King Kai and comes back with a multiplier and a bomb made of other people's energy, and both of those are power-ups, and this Goku does not need a single power-up in the universe. So what does King Kai have that's worth anything to a man like this? Turns out, 2 things. And they're the 2 most important techniques in this entire series, and neither one of them is going to do what you think it does. Also, King Kai is the first person in the universe who's going to look at him and actually know what he's looking at. Kami didn't know. Roshi didn't know. Grandpa Gohan died not knowing. Somebody's finally going to say the words out loud. Part 3. See you there.